What happens when the people building the most powerful technology in history come to us, the public, and plead with us to control them? It sounds like the opening of a science fiction novel, doesn't it? But that is exactly what happened. In May of this year, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, stood before the U.S. Senate, and he didn't lobby for fewer rules. He asked for them. He called for a new government agency to license powerful AI and enforce safety standards. The Senate Judiciary Committee chairman called it historic to see corporate leaders pleading for regulation. Then, just 9 days later, that same CEO warned that his company might cease operations in Europe over the very kind of AI regulations he had just advocated for. He called the EU's proposed rules at the time potentially stifling. One of the EU's top officials shot back, calling the threat blackmail. So which is it? Do we need urgent, strict global rules to save us from a technology that even its creators fear? Or is this a brake on progress, a barrier to a future of incredible abundance and solutions to our hardest problems? Welcome to Future Vision Talks. I'm Jordan. In the next while, we are going to do a deep, unflinching dive into the single most important conversation of our technological age, the urgent, messy, and absolutely critical fight to establish a global AI Bill of Rights. We are going to move beyond the hype and the fear. We will unpack the three brutal challenges that make governing AI unlike anything we've ever tried to regulate before. We will explore the 5 core ethical principles that the world is, surprisingly, beginning to agree upon. And, most importantly, we will confront the stark fork in the road ahead of us, a future where AI locks in a new era of terrifying inequality, a great divergence between and within nations, or a future where its power is harnessed to elevate all of humanity. This is not just a talk about technology. This is a talk about power, justice, and what kind of future we are willing to build. So, let's begin by understanding the storm we're trying to navigate. That shocking contradiction from one of AI's most prominent faces, asking for rules one week and threatening to leave over them the next, isn't just corporate drama. It is the perfect symptom of a much deeper disease in our approach to this technology. It reveals the first and most daunting of what scholars at the Brookings Institution call the 3 challenges of AI regulation. In Through the Looking Glass, the Red Queen tells Alice, "It takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that." That is the life of an AI regulator right now. The technology is evolving at a pace that obliterates our traditional industrial-era models of lawmaking. Think about it. ChatGPT went from a niche tool to 100 million users in 2 months, the fastest-growing application in history. Its underlying model, GPT-3, was superseded by GPT-4 in a matter of months, with claims of human-level performance. This isn't a product cycle, it's an explosion. And when Microsoft's CEO launched an AI-powered Bing, he explicitly said, "A race starts today." We're trying to build a fence on the edge of a cliff, while the cliff itself is growing outward at supersonic speeds. Our regulatory structures were built for railroads and telephones, technologies that changed over decades. They're built on what's called Taylorism, the idea of standardized methods and top-down control that works when innovation is slow. AI development, in contrast, operates on agile principles: rapid iteration, transparency within teams, and constant responsiveness. Our government agencies are stuck in the age of steam, trying to corral a technology of pure thought moving at the speed of light. This velocity creates a dangerous vacuum. As former Google CEO Eric Schmidt has argued, quote, "There's no one in government who can get it right." His proposed solution? Let the companies that are creating the problem make their own rules. But we've seen this movie before. We allowed social media platforms to become their own governments for 2 decades. The result? An unprecedented invasion of personal privacy, rampant market concentration, user manipulation, and an ecosystem flooded with hate, lies, and misinformation. To think that self-regulation will work any better for a technology infinitely more powerful is, as Senator Richard Blumenthal warned, to risk failing to meet the moment yet again. So we need to regulate. But what exactly do we regulate? This is the second monumental challenge. AI is not a single thing. It is a capability, a chameleon-like tool that can be a playful character in a video game one moment and a system making life-altering decisions about your loan, your health care, or your parole the next. A one-size-fits-all rule would be a disaster, smothering harmless innovation while failing to restrain profound dangers. This is why experts argue regulation must be risk-based. We have to parse the challenge. The first part is, ironically, the easiest: dealing with old-fashioned abuses supercharged by a newfangled tool.
AI doesn't invent criminality, it industrializes it. Think of the traditional phone scam. It required research, a script, and a human to make the call. Now, as the Federal Trade Commission has warned, a scammer can take a 3-second audio clip of your loved one from social media, feed it to an AI, and generate a convincing, real-time voice conversation pleading for money. The entire process, targeting, message creation, delivery, can be automated and deployed at a scale never before possible. Or consider discrimination, a very old poison with a new algorithmic delivery system. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has warned that AI used in hiring, performance monitoring, and promotions can easily bake in bias and violate federal law. The Department of Justice has issued similar warnings about AI in housing applications. The harm is classic, the method is novel. The brilliant insight here, articulated by FTC Chair Lina Khan, is that there is no AI exemption to the laws on the books. We don't necessarily need brand new laws for these old abuses. We need regulators with the initiative and understanding to apply our existing anti-fraud, anti-discrimination, and consumer protection statutes to the AI context. This is the low-hanging fruit of AI governance.
But the second layer of the what problem is much thornier. Dealing with the ongoing digital abuses that AI doesn't just execute, but amplifies. This is where we move from enforcing existing law to defining new societal boundaries. For decades, we failed to adequately address the core business model of the digital age: the hoarding of personal data as a corporate asset to maintain market control and manipulate the flow of information. AI systems, particularly the large language models powering this new wave, are built on this hoarded data. They don't change this abusive dynamic, they supercharge it, giving immense power to the handful of companies that control the data and the computing infrastructure. This brings us to the most profound and unsettling layer of all: regulating not just what AI does wrong, but what it does, period. What happens when an AI's core function, its very success, poses a systemic risk? This is the domain of existential fears and hard choices. Harvard Business School professor Eugene Soltis paints a frightening picture of AI agents operating in the financial realm. He asks us to imagine an AI given access to a cryptocurrency wallet and a simple command: grow the portfolio. In the traditional banking system, a human can freeze a transaction, but in the decentralized, immutable world of blockchain, an AI could deploy a fraudulent smart contract or initiate a harmful transaction that no authority can stop. It could even, in theory, create automated bounty systems for real-world violence that execute without any human ever pulling a trigger. This isn't a malfunction, it's the model working perfectly to optimize for a given goal. Regulating this means grappling with the very architecture of autonomy and aligning a machine's utility function with humanity's deepest values.
a problem we are only beginning to comprehend.
Let's say we solve the velocity issue with agile new regulatory bodies. Let's say we brilliantly categorize AI systems by risk and craft perfect tiered rules. We are still left with the third, perhaps most politically intractable challenge. Who gets to make these rules for the world? AI is the first truly global, borderless technology from birth. A model trained on data scraped from the entire internet can be accessed from anywhere. This creates a chaotic regulatory patchwork. A company like Google finds its Bard chatbot available in 180 countries, but not in the EU or Canada because of their stricter privacy rules. We are heading toward a world where your digital rights and protections change depending on your digital latitude and longitude. And the philosophies behind these patchwork rules are radically different. In the United States, the approach, as exemplified by a recent AI action plan from the Trump administration, has shifted decisively toward what Harvard's Danielle Allen calls the accelerationist paradigm. The goal is to move fast and break things, to unshackle American innovation, cement U.S. dominance, and outpace geopolitical rivals, particularly China. The focus is on industrial policy, building chips, funding labs, and removing perceived barriers. Guardrails are often dismissed as impediments to this race. As one policy researcher noted, this strategy bets on private sector leadership and trusts market forces, leaving critical questions about fairness, displaced workers, and community impact largely unanswered. Contrast this with the European Union's approach, which is firmly in the realm of precautionary, rights-based regulation. The EU AI Act is a comprehensive, legally binding framework that categorizes AI systems by risk and outright bans certain unacceptable uses, like government social scoring. It is a monumental attempt to translate ethical principles into hard law. The tension between the U.S. innovation-first and EU rights-first models is the central fault line in the global governance debate. And then there is the perspective of the majority of the world's population, often missing from this conversation in Silicon Valley and Brussels. This brings us to a devastating report released just this week by the United Nations Development Program. It warns that AI, unmanaged, risks sparking a new era of divergence, a reversal of decades of progress where poorer countries caught up with richer ones. We are not all starting this race from the same line. Countries like Singapore, South Korea, and China are investing billions in AI infrastructure and talent, filing nearly 70% of global AI patents. Meanwhile, places like Afghanistan or Myanmar lack the reliable electricity, internet connectivity, and skilled workforces even to get started. The UNDP report states bluntly, the central fault line in the AI era is capability. Without deliberate policy, AI will not close global gaps, it will widen them into chasms. It notes that about a quarter of the Asia-Pacific region lacks online access. Millions of people, especially rural, indigenous, and displaced populations, are invisible in the datasets that train AI, meaning the systems will not work for them and may actively discriminate against them. Women, whose jobs are nearly twice as exposed to automation, face a double burden. So the who problem is a clash of paradigms, the accelerationists, the precautionary, and the developmental. And sitting in the middle, trying to navigate this chaos, are the very corporations whose CEOs gave us our opening contradiction. They are simultaneously seeking the stability of clear rules, fighting to shape those rules in their commercial interest, and threatening to withdraw from markets where the rules don't suit them. It's an untenable status quo. This brings us to the core of our discussion. If the challenges are this severe and the stakes are this high, what is the alternative to this chaotic, fragmented, and potentially catastrophic scramble? We need a common language, a foundational set of principles that can be translated across borders, cultures, and legal systems. We need a North Star. And remarkably, after years of principle proliferation, where every company and think tank issued its own glossy ethics charter, a consensus is actually emerging. Researchers from the University of Oxford and others conducted a fine-grained analysis of the world's major AI ethics frameworks, from the Asilomar AI principles to the Montreal Declaration to the EU's own guidelines. They found a high degree of overlap, and importantly, discovered that this overlap maps almost perfectly onto the 4 classic principles of medical bioethics, with one crucial addition. This gives us a powerful, time-tested framework, a set of 5 core principles for a global AI Bill of Rights. This twin principle comes straight from the Hippocratic Oath and sits at the heart of ethical AI. Beneficence means AI should actively promote well-being, dignity, and the common good. It's not enough for a system to be neutral. It should be designed with positive outcomes in mind. Can an AI tutoring system adapt to a child's learning style? Can a diagnostic tool in a remote village with no doctor help identify disease? This is beneficence in action. But beneficence is incomplete without its essential counterpart, non-maleficence, the duty to avoid causing harm. This is the bedrock safety principle. It means rigorously testing systems before deployment for foreseeable risks. It means asking, as the U.S. intelligence community's framework does, what are the potential risks to civil liberties and privacy? Who will be at risk? Do the likely negative impacts outweigh the positive ones? This principle forces us to confront the dark side use cases, the discriminatory hiring tool, the emotion-manipulating social media algorithm, the autonomous weapon. A global AI Bill of Rights must enshrine that some things, no matter how profitable or technically elegant, simply must not be built. If the first principle is about intent, the second is about impact. Justice and fairness demand that the benefits and burdens of AI be distributed equitably and that systems do not perpetuate or amplify unfair discrimination. This is the direct answer to the UNDP's dire warning. This principle tackles algorithmic bias head-on. As the intelligence community framework notes, undesired bias can be introduced at every stage, in the data collected, in the way features are labeled, in the model selected, and in how users are trained. A system trained on historical hiring data from a biased industry will simply automate that bias at scale. Justice requires proactive mitigation. It asks, is our data representative? How are we actively searching for and fixing biased outcomes? Is our team diverse enough to spot these blind spots? But justice goes beyond non-discrimination. It is also a positive, distributive mandate. It asks, are we building AI that will help close the digital divide? Or will it become the next essential infrastructure, like roads and schools, that only the wealthy can access? The goal, as the UN report states, must be to democratize access to AI so that every country and community can benefit while protecting those most at risk from disruption. This principle is about power and sovereignty. Autonomy means respecting and preserving human self-determination. In an AI-saturated world, this translates to a fundamental right, the right not to be subject to a purely automated decision when that decision significantly affects your life, liberty, or livelihood. This is the concept of human in the loop, or, more powerfully, human on the loop. The U.S. intelligence framework is explicit. If an AI system could result in significant consequences, such as depriving someone of constitutional rights, you must ensure individual human involvement and accountability. This isn't just a technical requirement, it's a moral one.
It means you have the right to appeal to a human being, to have your unique context considered, to have a fallback when the algorithm gets it wrong. Autonomy also deeply intersects with privacy. To be self-determining, you must have control over your personal data, the fuel for most modern AI. A global Bill of Rights must protect against the unprecedented invasion of personal privacy that has characterized the digital platform era and that AI threatens to magnify.
You cannot have autonomy, justice, or safety if you are dealing with a mystery. The fourth principle, unique to the AI context, is explicability. It contains two intertwined ideas. Transparency, can we understand what the system is doing? And accountability, can we assign responsibility for its outcomes? Many advanced AI systems, particularly deep learning models, are black boxes. We see the input and the output, but the reasoning in between is obscured in layers of complex, non-human readable calculations. This is unacceptable for systems making consequential decisions. As the principle asks, should we understand what and why AI does whatever it does? The answer must be yes. This means requiring explainable AI methods where possible. It means that when an AI denies you a loan, the company must be able to provide a meaningful, understandable explanation, not just "the algorithm said so." Furthermore, explicability underpins accountability. It ensures we can trace a harmful outcome back to a point of responsibility. Was it a flawed dataset? A poorly specified goal? A negligent developer? As the EQM framework states, we must identify who will be accountable for the AI and its effects at each stage and across its life cycle. Without explicability, harm disappears into the machine and justice becomes impossible. This final principle binds all the others together. Responsibility and accountability mean that ultimate liability for AI systems rests with people and institutions, not with the code. It answers the critical question, who should be blamed when AI causes harm? This principle mandates clear governance chains. Who signed off on deploying this model? Who is monitoring its performance in the real world? Who is responsible for periodic reviews and updates? It rejects the notion of the algorithm did it as a legal or moral defense. In a world moving toward autonomous actions, this principle is the anchor that keeps technology tethered to human ethics. It is the mechanism that turns lofty principles into enforceable standards. These 5 principles, beneficence and non-maleficence, justice and fairness, autonomy, explicability and accountability, are not a magic wand. They are a foundational lexicon, a constitution for the digital age. They provide the common criteria by which we can judge specific regulations, corporate policies, and technical designs, whether in Washington, Brussels, or Nairobi. But a constitution is just paper without mechanisms of governance. How do we translate this framework from theory into practice? How do we build the guardrails without stifling the engine? This is where we move from the what to the how, and we must be brutally realistic. First, we must reject the siren song of pure self-regulation. The track record is abysmal. Instead, we need what Brookings scholars call agile regulation. This means creating focused, expert regulatory bodies with AI as their core mandate, not an afterthought. These bodies must be freed from industrial-era micromanagement and equipped to move at technology speed. This could involve sunset clauses on rules, mandatory post-deployment monitoring instead of just pre-approval, and sandboxes where innovations can be tested safely under regulatory supervision. Second, regulation must be risk-based and targeted. A global Bill of Rights would not mean identical rules for a photo filter app and a cardiac diagnosis AI. It would mean that all systems must respect the core principles, but the level of scrutiny, auditing, and human oversight would be scaled to the potential for harm. The EU's tiered approach, with banned practices, high-risk categories, and lighter touch regimes for minimal risk, is a logical model.
Third, we must invest massively in global capacity building. The UNDP report is unequivocal. The central fault line is capability. A global AI Bill of Rights that only rich countries can implement is a failure. This means international cooperation to fund digital infrastructure, education, and regulatory expertise in the Global South. It means supporting local innovation hubs, as Harvard's David Yang suggests, so that AI solutions are developed for local contexts in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, not just imported from Silicon Valley. Paradoxically, as Yang notes, ceding some control and fostering this global collaboration could ultimately consolidate the position of ethical, principled innovators. Fourth, we need technical and policy innovation in lockstep. We can bake ethics into the machine itself. Researchers are working on constitutional AI, where models are trained to follow a set of core rules. We can mandate kill switches for autonomous agents. We can require data provenance and watermarking for AI-generated content. Policy should incentivize the development and adoption of these safety-aligned technologies.
Finally, and most critically, we must choose our paradigm. Danielle Allen from Harvard presents a clear choice. We have the accelerationist path: move fast, break things, replace human labor, and hope the winners somehow compensate the losers. We have the effective altruism-inspired path: move fast, break things, but plan for massive redistribution, like universal basic income, to cope with the disruption. Then there is the pluralist path. This is the path aligned with the Global AI Bill of Rights. Its goal is not to overmatch and replace human intelligence, but to complement and extend the plural kinds of human intelligence: emotional, creative, social, with machine intelligence. The purpose is to activate and extend human pluralism. It focuses on using AI to empower workers, not replace them, to give individuals ownership over their data, and to design systems that enhance human agency and creativity. This is the path that sees technology as a tool for deepening democracy and human flourishing, not an end in itself.
This brings us back to our opening hook, to that stark contradiction in a Senate hearing room. The chaos and conflict we see are the birth pangs of a new world. The companies are facing the reality that they are building something too powerful to go ungoverned, yet they are terrified of governance that crushes their models or their margins. The politicians are caught between existential fear and the lure of economic dominance. The public is both mesmerized by the potential and anxious about the peril. A global AI Bill of Rights, built on these 5 principles, is our way out of this trap. It is not a weapon against innovation. It is the foundation for sustainable, trusted innovation. As Harvard policy researcher Paulo Carvio argues, innovation and accountability do not need to be trade-offs. They are a dual imperative. If we want the world to trust American-made AI, or any AI, we must ensure it earns that trust, at home and abroad.
This is the vision for Future Vision Talks, a future where we are not passive passengers on a rocket ship built by a handful of engineers in California and Beijing, hurtling toward a destination we did not choose. A future where we, humanity, collectively grasp the controls, where we use these incredible tools to diagnose disease in every village, to educate every child, to model climate solutions, and to create art that stirs the soul, all while rigorously guarding against the biases, the manipulations, and the concentrations of power that could doom us.
That future is not guaranteed. It will be forged by the choices we make in the next few years. It will be shaped by engineers, by policymakers, and by citizens like you, demanding that technology serve human dignity. If this conversation matters to you, if you believe the future should be built on a foundation of ethics, justice, and human agency, then you are part of building it. Help this vision spread. Like this video if you want to see more deep dives into the technology shaping our tomorrow. Share it with one person who needs to be part of this conversation. And subscribe to Future Vision Talks and hit the bell icon because we are just getting started. The next great divergence is not yet written. The future is a vision we will build together. I'm Jordan. Until next time.